G'day OMG, it's good to see you again. Brian Dawson from the Diocese of Waiapu, Vicar of the beautiful parish of Havelock North. Can't complain, it's a great day out there. Those of you who followed the updates during our recent Diocesan Synod on OMG, the Facebook and the Twitter feeds will know that we had a very busy, a very interesting Synod meeting in early September, during which we debated some potentially difficult subjects and disruptive issues. It wasn't an easy conversation to have. Anglicanism, this wonderful thing we call the Anglican Church, has always aspired to be a broad church, a place where people have differing views, of divergent practices, a place where all can come together and gather under the same banner to worship the same God. It's always been one of the things that we aspire to be. History shows us, though, that despite that aspiration, we have always had times when one point of view is unacceptable to the majority, or when something has been deemed disallowed by a group within the church, and anyone who does that or doesn't do that has been seen to be on the outside. That's always been the way the church has been, and that's okay to an extent. I mean, we have to have lines. So if we're honest, the question isn't how do we find unity in diversity? Rather, the question is, how do we disagree with one another properly? How do we disagree well, perhaps you might say? We do all have bottom lines, and some have more than others in our personal lives, in our work lives, and in our faith lives. We have things that we hold on to, things that we consider to be our bottom lines, the things that we are not prepared to cross, if you like. And that's okay, as long as we're prepared to listen and to reflect, and having listened and reflected, maybe occasionally be willing to adjust our lines, to accept that maybe what we originally thought isn't the way we still think, and draw some different lines in different places. And then it's right and proper to have things to stand for. It always is. As the old saying goes, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I think that's true. We need to remember that. What worries me, though, sometimes in the church is that we're not prepared to air our differences in public. We're not prepared to stand up and say, I disagree with you, because we're scared we might hurt someone, or we might cause some sort of disruption in the church around us. And we might discover that if we live with those disagreements long enough, we won't actually come to a common mind. What I appreciated about our discussions at Synod was that people were prepared to say where they stood, even when it was clear that a lot of people disagreed with them. And I thought that was great. I was on one side of those debates, and I was very aware right from the start that there were people who were on a different side who didn't just disagree with me, but they were absolutely convinced that I was wrong. And I really wanted them to be able to say that. I really wanted everyone to have the chance to say exactly where they stood and why they stood there. And my experience has been that no one wins when we simply avoid the issue. St. Benedict used the term murmuratio, and that's what we end up with, murmuratio, which is grumbling, disagreement, something that grumbles away beneath the surface, where people moan around kitchen tables rather than bringing it out into the open and talking about it openly. In the end, our Waiapu Synod had the hard conversations, and I believe we had them well. I was impressed for the most part by how respectful, how caring people were, and what they said and the way they said it. And while I know that not everyone agrees with the outcomes, I hope everyone agrees that their opinion was heard. And honestly, if they feel it wasn't, I hope they understand that that's because they chose not to air it, not because they didn't have the opportunity. So how do we keep doing this well? How do we keep having difficult conversations, but without going for the jugular, if you like, without it just degenerating into a scrap? It's going to be a more important question than ever in coming months and years, I believe. So, what do you think? How do we do this well?